A few stolen moments is all that we share. You've got your family and they need you there. Though I've tried to resist being last on your list, but there's no other girl is gonna do. So I'm saving all my love. Yes, I'm saving all my love for you. It's not very easy living all alone. My friends try and tell me find a girl of my own, but each time I try, I just break down and cry, 'cause I'd rather be home feeling blue. So I'm saving all my love. Yes, I'm saving all my love for you. Saving it just for you, lady. All my love. You used to tell me we'll run away together. Love give you the right to be free. You said be patient, just wait a little longer, but that's just an old fantasy. I've got to get ready, just a few minutes more. Gonna get that old feeling when you walk through the door. 'Cause tonight is the night for feeling alright. We'll be making love the whole night through. So I'm saving all my love. Yes, I'm saving all my love for you. No other man gonna love you more than I do. 'Cause tonight is the night. We'll be feeling alright. We'll be making love the whole night through.
If I were your baby, oh, I would give you so much more. I'm Etana and you're locked into the Wayne Hall Show. Keep it locked. Yes to the vibes, eh?
Baby, babes, I really love you. I mean it, I really, really do. I really, really, baby, babe, I love you more than words can say, and you always on my mind, every minute, every day, all the time. I wanna show you how I care for you in so many ways, and I wanna take you places, baby, you've never been before. You're so special, you designed for me. I love you, I love you, I love you. You're the only one for me, baby, and I'm keeping it real. Baby, babes, I love you more than words can say. and you always on my mind. Every minute, every day, all the time. I wanna show you how I care.
Want to say good evening and welcome to another great edition of the Wayne Hall Show right here on your radio. Yes, it is truly a pleasure to have each and every one of you. And let me tell you, big shout out to everyone on all the platforms. The Wayne Hall Show on Island Worldwide. Hello, China Nicole. How are you? The Sutherlands. What's up, Gary? Bless up and all the listeners on islandworldwide.com. ReggaeVibesRadio.com. Big up to the family. You know that's the home of the Wayne Hall Show. Big up to Mr. Nitty Phonic, DJ Marlon himself, DJ Reds, Gucci London, DJ Sean, the whole family at ReggaeVibesRadio.com. ClarkeTV Network, Chester Clark and the crew. How are you? All right. Thanks. And to everyone listening via ClarkeTV Network, good evening. Thank you for tuning in tonight. All right. HypeFM, the right FM. Frankie Lex. All right. I hear you, my brother, the right FM. I also want to shout out everyone listening on HypeFM. Big up to ViscosityBlend.com. Rupi T, the blender. Catch him every Tuesday night right here at 8 on the Wayne Hall Network. Big up to all the listeners on ViscosityBlend.com. Youchooseradiocom. Big up VJs, DJ Smiles and the crew over there. Bless up to everyone listening on You Choose Radio right now. All right. And then also Yardflow TV. Bless up Yardflow TV. Gucci London and the crew. Bless, bless, bless. Good to be streaming on Yardflow TV as well. Fresh FM Radio as well. But you know what? Catch me tomorrow night. That's Thursday nights. 5:30 our time in Atlanta, 10:30 UK time for a totally different, refreshing episode of the Wayne Hall Show. So we got some brand new music to get us going right here on the show. Keep it locked. Don't go anywhere. All right. It's the Wayne Hall Show.
I'm really
Richie Faith, he says, Baby Babes. Before that, you got King Banton, Saving All My Love for You.
baby, babe. I love you.
That's right.
More than words can say. And you always on my mind. Every minute, every day, all the time. I wanna show you how I care for you in so many ways. And I wanna take you places, baby, you never been before.
Hey,
you're so special, you designed for me.
Richie Faith, brand new.
I love you, I love you. You're the only one for me, baby. And I'm keeping it real, baby, babe. I love you more than words can say. And you always on my mind. Every minute, every day, all the time. I wanna show you how I care for you in so many ways. And I wanna take you places, baby, you never been before.
Who no ready for some love? Show me some love. Who no ready for some love? Papa Vito, I gon' give you some love. Got so much love that I have to share. If I could sell my love, I'll be a millionaire. So much love that I have to share. If I could sell my love, I'll be a millionaire. love, fear, love, dear, love everywhere. Love just amongst over the atmosphere. The amount of love me have people say it's unfair. Me have it in a bungle and me have it in a pair. Me give away me love and me don't really care. And if it run out, me just draw for the spear. The amount of love me have is like a nightmare. Papa Beater spread them love everywhere. So much love that I have to share. If I could sell my love, I'd be a millionaire. So much love that I have to share. If I could sell my love, I'd be a millionaire. The word is love, and me say God is love. And if you don't know God, that then you don't know love. You can fall in love, you can stand in love. Give me the real
Papa Beto, what's good, my brother?
Papa Lee, they tell you about one love. It's more to love than making love. We are on the wings of love. Papa Beto, me say him full of love. So much love that I have to share. If I could sell my love, I'll be a millionaire.
That's kind of how I feel right now. Let me share some love. Let me show some love to everyone on the Facebook Live. Good evening and welcome to Miss Sharon Michelle Barnwell. Wind Down Wednesday. Hello to all. I love that, Sharon. Yeah, it's time to wind down with the Wayne Hall Show. All right, Cheryl Callisteg. Hi there, Wayne Hall Show. Well, hi there, Cheryl. Welcome. I have to tell you about my oil down experience, okay? Beto Music Man. Wait, Beto, how are you, Papa Beto? Christine Rendell, CR, how are you? And I see Miss Lyons, Maxine, how are you, Maxine? Mr. Denis Charles, thank you. Good music, he says. All right, good. Debbie Jane Heather, welcome. And Mr. Carl Whittingham, big up yourself. Welcome, Mr. Whittingham. Good to see you. Andrea Brown McNeish, ABM. Welcome, ABM. Good to see you as well. All right. So thank you all for tuning in, man. We have a great show lined up tonight. Don Richards, good evening and welcome. We have a great show lined up. All right. We have Anthony Turner. He's going to be hot on the burner here shortly. Yes, Anthony Turner is going to join us shortly. And we're going to have the eReport live from New York City. We're there under how many feet of snow? I'll find out from Anthony. And then at the bottom of the hour, Mr. Denis Charles, financier extraordinaire. He says, look, this is Reggae Month. It's Black History Month. But one thing we lack is financial independence, financial freedom. And he's going to teach us how to get there, us black folks. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then, ladies and gentlemen, later on, we have Professor Dr. Harcourt Fuller, who's going to join us. He's a Maroon himself, and he's also a professor here at the Georgia State University in Atlanta. He's going to join me via Zoom, and he's going to share with us, put into historical perspective in this Black History Month, the Maroon situation down there in Jamaica. It's going to help us better understand and able to interpret what's going on currently. So I really appreciate him coming on for that, plus other stuff. He's got a lot of stuff, great music. He's got an album out with Maroon music and more. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Please enjoy the information and stay with us for the music. It's going to be a great night on the Wayne Hall Show. All right? I promise you. And you know what? It is 14 minutes past the hour. So let me do this, and then we're going to get over to Mr. Anthony Turner, who is already hot on the burner. Here we go. Let's listen.
Global and Culture 2022 on Fresh FM Radio London are celebrating Reggae Month Jamaica during February, featuring the legends and pioneers, women in reggae, UK lovers rock, jazz reggae, and homeward bound creativity show. Reggae Global and Culture 2022 on Fresh FM Radio London. Reggae, every day, everywhere. For more information, go to www.Fresh FM Radio London and download our app. Fresh FM Radio London, inspired music and culture.
IDG Alliance and Codex Music present Wake Up Music Video Premiere and Live Concert featuring Antonoa and Brap Music by Line of Judah Sound with father and daughter combination, Ras Irate and Empress Movements. Saturday the 5th of March 2022 at 8 p.m. at the BPU Global Center, 5595 Riverdale Road, College Park, Georgia. It's a family affair. Present COVID protocols will be observed. For more information, visit www.ijahanowahandbrap.com. That's ijahanowahandbrap.com.
Check out the latest single by Queen Kamala featuring Sativa, Tired of Crime and Violence.
Me say me tired, that me say too much blood a roar. You see that? Jamaica, we tired of the crime and the violence.
Check out this track on all digital platforms. Follow up on social media on Facebook at Queen Kamala, on Instagram at Queen Kamala, and on Twitter at Queen Kamala. For bookings, call 347-743-3348. That's the latest single by Queen Kamala featuring Sativa, Tired of Crime and Violence.
Why so much shooting? Why so much big thing?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this side of the Wayne Hall Show. It's my pleasure to go on over and say welcome to Mr. Anthony Turner. Anthony, how are you?
Hey, good evening, Wayne. I think this is the first time we're talking on here since the start. Oh, we've spoken, right?
Yes,
I think
we had one show and then
yeah.
now. So, first time since the first show.
Okay. Yeah, well, Happy New Year again, and Happy New Year to all of the listeners. I'm sure you have listeners from not just in the Atlanta area, but from globally. I know the Wayne Hall Show has a global reach, so we definitely want to say big respects to everybody tuning in.
Yes, sir.
And the report is presented today by Images LLC, and for all your PR and marketing need, give Dave Rodney a call at 212-767-9000 so he can craft a personalized media marketing campaign to bring much needed visibility and publicity for your product, event, and or service today. And as you rightly said, the Reggae Month, the annual celebration of all things reggae, well, it kicked off yesterday, and I see where they had a church service in Jamaica to kick things off, and the service was held at the Go for the Good, the God Family Church, and this is at the Shortwood Teachers College in St. Andrew. And the annual observance highlights and celebrates the impact of the musical genre of Jamaica's social, cultural, and economic development. And a number of activities are being staged throughout the month of February in observance of Reggae Month, and these include, they have public lectures, they're going to have panel discussions, screening of reggae-related documentaries, and of course they have live performances. And I think they typically end the Reggae Month celebration with an award ceremony, but I know for the past 2 years they've actually did not have that award ceremony. So I'm not sure if this year, I know things are kind of changing with the COVID-19 situation, so they may actually have an in-person event this year. So we'll see how that one goes. And if you're talking about Reggae Month, then one of the things that always happens on Reggae Month, some of the biggest celebrities in the reggae world, two of the biggest superstars we're talking about, the Honorable Robert Nesta Marley, you're talking about Dennis Brown, there are a couple big reggae superstars that were actually born in the month of February, and one of them is, of course, the late great reggae singer Dennis Emmanuel Brown. And I know yesterday they had an event at the National Heroes Park in Kingston. And when you talk about Dennis, he started his career from way back in the 60s, 1968 to be exact. And if he were still alive today, it would be his 65th birthday yesterday. He was, of course, born on February 1st, 1957, and he was influenced by some of his contemporaries, people like Delroy Wilson, who had a major impact on his career. Also, Mr. Errol Dunkley, and also John Holt, Ken Booth, and of course the late great Bob Andy. So, we definitely pay tributes to Dennis Brown. I was fortunate to have had the pleasure of working with him on a few occasions, and really a great person. And of course, we know he's a great singer, and really great person. And we just certainly miss that he is not around to still be entertaining and performing and doing all the great things that he has done for us over the years. And finally, I have some news about Sister Nancy. Yeah, Bam Bam, that big 1982 hit song.
Yeah,
I tell you. It's still making noise. Yeah, it's still making noise in not just Jamaica, but it surged to #1 on the reggae songs chart, and it was actually featured in an episode of the Netflix popular crime drama Ozark. And that track, which was certified silver in the UK earlier this month, it continues to pick up placement in popular culture, and most recently as one of 47 tracks in another Netflix series called Made, and also in the James Bond movie No Time to Die. So, that song was recorded, I think, back in 1978, and, not 1970, 1982.
Yes.
Yeah, and, still doing big things. I actually spoke to Sister Nancy earlier this week on Monday, just to find out how things are with her, and she's really excited to get back on the road.
Wow.
She told me that she is actually scheduled to go on a tour in Australia. I think she starts touring in Australia in March, hopefully, and there's plans to head over to Europe. And Sister Nancy, I tell you, a lot of people don't know she's one of the most toured artists of any female or male reggae.
Really?
Yeah, man, Sister Nancy. I tell you, a lot of people think that they hear things about, the spices of the world, the sensias, Lady saw when she was doing her reggae dancehall thing. But the fact is that, Sister Nancy quietly has built up she has a really, really large following globally. And, she was an accountant for many years, but I can tell you, Wayne, almost every weekend without fail, Sister Nancy was performing someplace in the world. Not necessarily for Jamaicans all the time, but she is always performing. Even here in New York, she will perform a lot of times, not at some of the regular Jamaican clubs, but, she will book for clubs where a lot of non-Jamaicans are, and they love her music. My neighbor, who is Italian, in the summertime when he's playing his music, Sister Nancy's always in the mix. So don't sleep on Sister Nancy and think, boy, she's not hot. She definitely is hot.
What a bam bam.
Yeah, man, what a bam bam.
Recording in progress.
So those are just some of the things making news, and I certainly want to say congratulations to Rihanna.
Yeah.
I see where Rihanna is now gonna becoming a parent, a mother very soon.
Yeah, Rihanna, mommy Rihanna.
Can you imagine?
Yes, sir.
Checking off all the boxes.
Why not?
Is a big time artist. She's big time. She's in the fashion industry. She recently became a national hero of Barbados. I know she's gonna check that box, mommy. So congrats, Rihanna.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
so how are things looking? I hear you're talking about doing a program about the Maroons.
Yes.
This is a hot topic in Jamaica.
Yes, that's a hot topic in Jamaica right now. So it's a pertinent one. At 9 p.m. tonight, Dr. Fuller is going to join me, and he's going to just shed some light. What I would like for us to take away tonight is a more clear perspective of really what is happening there, what happened in historically, and how our future should be shaped. Hopefully, I know he'll deliver on that. But before that, Anthony, we're going to talk money. So, we're going to talk about how to get financial freedom from Mr. Charles. So,
okay. So you have a full program lineup.
Yes, sir.
And while you're talking about the Maroons, there's a big song by Yasus Afari, who is a poet, dub poet in Jamaica. Yeah. And he has a big song. I got a copy of it, so I guess I'll send it over to you because since it's Black History Month, and he actually has a big event coming up on February 22nd called Poetry in Motion, and it's gonna happen on Sunday, February 27th, and they're doing the virtual edition this year. People like Blacker Ellis, Errol Donkey gonna be performing, and a host of other artists. Professor Kenton Hutton, and a host of others. Yasu Safari, very connected with the Maroons in Jamaica. Very good friends with the Chief Curry. And so we've had discussions about that whole situation in Jamaica. There's a lot to the story that I've learned from just talking to Yasus and all of that. So it should be an interesting program, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. It will be.
All right.
Tune in. All right, Anthony.
All right, you take care.
You got it going, man. Thanks as always for the great info and the different angles you take us every week. I appreciate you, man. You take care.
All right, you take care. Good to be on. Talk to you.
All right.
At 8 p.m. at the BPU Global Center.
All right. So there goes Mr. Anthony Turner with the eReport. Ladies and gentlemen, live from the NYC. And always a pleasure, man, to hear Anthony. All right? All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you see a person and you have no clue what they've been through. I just want to play a little bit of this song before my guest comes along. All right? You see my glory, but you don't know my story. Maxine Lang.
Listening to The Wayne Hall Show, where
don't know the story. That's right, don't judge me. Come on now. That's right. That's right. You can also catch the Wayne Hall Show on YouTube. I want to shout out everyone on Wayne Hall Shows live on YouTube right now. Thank you for joining us. And those on the WayneHallShow.com. All right. joining us in tandem with islandworldwide.com, reggaevibesradio.com, ClarkeTV Network. Big up Chester Clark, he's on the live. Welcome. HypeFM, The Right FM, ViscosityBlend.com, You Choose Radio, Fresh FM Radio also. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very important segment coming up, so I want to thank you all in advance for tuning in. Yes. Struggler, big up yourself. Sandra Price, welcome. Good to see you. All right. Okay. Chester Clark, Peter Folks, and Cheryl. Yes. Oh, man. Cheryl is shouting out Anthony Turner. Anthony, Cheryl was bigging you up. Sorry, Mr. Wayne, overlooked that. All right. Okay. So we're going to get to our guest without further ado, Mr. Denis Charles. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, let me find my info on Mr. Charles because you need to know a little bit about my guest even before I reveal him to you. All right. He's from the Caribbean. He's a financial consultant here in Atlanta. He's an ex-stockbroker from New York with many years of high-end investment experience. And yes, he's waiting in the Zoom, as you can see. Yeah, so he's also done real estate sales and investments, both here and in Brooklyn, New York. And his goal, ladies and gentlemen, is to bring economic empowerment to our community through financial literacy. He now teach others about money. And, you know, the topic tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is banking while black. How we help others keep us back. And that's serious. Are we helping others to keep us back as black people, or are we positioning ourselves to earn some of this wealth that's out there? It's a very dynamic atmosphere right now. And so the expert himself, Mr. Denis Charles, will walk us through that. Welcome, Wayne Garcia. Let me go over to the Zoom. There it is. The time is always right. Good evening and welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this discourse tonight.
Of course, and it's timely. It's needed, especially in the month of February. You know,
yes,
Black History. It That's shouldn't be Black Misery Month, Black History Month. It should be Black Empowerment Month, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good. Well, you played some good music. I enjoyed it. And, you know, I like one of my favorite artists was Dennis Brown. I mean, same name like me. I love this guy so much as a kid. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining in, listening in, and here and abroad, everywhere. My name again is Denis Charles. I'm a good friend of Mr. Wayne Hall. My specialty, my background is in finance. Spent many years next to Donald Trump on Wall Street, 44 Wall Street. His building was 26. Just imagine that. After passing from this building every day, the New York Stock Exchange. Anyhow,
okay.
So I'm now in Georgia. I've done real estate. I have done different investments and all of that. You know, now I'm back into the financial world, and I'm looking at ways of empowering our people. But before so doing, I have to take a moment and go back on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. So allow me to use a few sentences out of his speech, I Have a Dream. I would not say the whole thing because of time restraints. So, 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. The life of the Negro is crippled by the manacles of segregation. I have a dream. The life of the Negro is crippled by the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty. I have a dream. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to to sort of reflect on that, because we have been dreaming for a long time. And we cannot remain in dreamland. That is not good. Dr. King said, the time is always right to do what is right. Right now, we got to move on from dreaming and realizing that's where we have to head. It is all about economic empowerment. We've been dreaming for a long time. So we need a plan. We need an action plan to take us off the plantation, dependency, poverty, food stamps, and all of that in the community. We need a plan. So tonight I want to present to you some things that we can do to empower ourselves. I have a few slides here that would show us how we can become financially free.
Awesome.
It is simple, right?
Excited. We're excited.
All right. So let me go to the next screen. I don't know why it is locking on me. But anyhow, if you are on the right track as a people, you are on the right track and you remain there. If you sit there and do nothing, you would get run over. All right? We have to do something. And how do we move from point A to point B? We must begin to invest. We have been depositing for a very long time. And I could ask you, last year, or maybe 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, you tell me, I don't know your age, right? How much money did you make from your bank in terms of interest?
It's very little.
Very little.
I can tell you it wasn't anything to write home about.
All right. Collectively, we in the Black community have upwards of $1.2 trillion in spending power. I want to inform you tonight that 1.2 billion is spent on beauty and hair products. We need a plan. Between booze and cigarette, the average Black family spend another $10,000 per year. We need a plan. And I'm not talking about silicone implants to shape up the booty a little bit. I think they cost a little, like $6,000 a pop. I never did one, I don't know. This is crazy. We need a plan, an investment plan. Let me tell you something. You put aside $5 a day for one of your grandchildren at age 5, by age 50, that child will retire with $820,000, period. No tax. $5.
Say that again. How much?
You invest $5, or maybe you have a young child, a boy and or a girl, $5, $5 a day.
Yeah.
8% compound interest with a 15% cap and a zero flow. I'm talking about index, right? Investment. It is pegged against the S&P 500. And mind you, don't get twisted with all this different jargons, right? I will break it down. In fact, you should put my number on the screen, 404-839-8468. And they can call me confidentially or just text me. And I'll have a conversation with you. Free financial advice. But $5 a day at 8% compound interest. From 5 years old, at 50, that child would walk away with $820,000, no tax, tax-free, period.
Wow.
For you to invest $10 a day, same thing, with 8% compound interest, right?
Yeah.
$10 a day, that would give you $447,000 again in 30 years. So you can go back to the grill. You buy a nice house, enjoy yourself near to the beach, White Sand Beach. You wake up, you sleep, you don't know what to do with yourself. Life is good. If you put $20 a day, that's a plate of oxtail and a glass of Irish moss, you call it? We say sea moss. $20 a day. That is $894,000 in 30 years. You could go back Barbados, St. Michael's, Grenada, get a nice place on Granans Beach or someplace, invest, whatever you want to do. The thing is, we have to think about investment, right? We have to start investing. We have to stop depositing. And that is what our people do. 80% of our people, that's where they put the paycheck, in a bank account, whether it's checking or savings, and they get nothing. Nothing. My mom spent 35 years banking at Chemical Bank. She got nothing. But here what happens? The bank would take your money and loan it to a certain president, and he builds a big golf course and a fancy hotel. He makes millions, they make millions, you get nothing. Banking while black. And we keep running with our money back to the same bank, helping them rob us. So we get fried in our own oil. And we keep on doing it. We like it. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for us to understand the game of money, right? We understand the stages of our lives. We, graduate from school young, fine. And I'd use I normally use a pointer, but just forget it for now. You can see at 25 years old, you finish school, probably a master's degree. Now is the time to build. You're going after wealth. The accumulation stage, stage one in your life. You're looking to have a nice 401k, a nice house up a hill. You're looking at stocks. You're looking to have a little cash somewhere, an emergency fund, some bonds, some mutual fund. So the early stages of your life, let's say from 25 to 45, you build. Because old age is going to come. You're going to begin to walk slow, breathe hard, and get tired. And then comes retirement. So stage one is when you do 2 jobs. You do overtime. You drive Uber. I don't care what you do, but you have to invest. So you have a diversified portfolio at the top. When you decide to call it a day, that's it. Maybe 60, maybe 65. Some people retire at 55, fine. Okay. You could start to distribute. This is called stage 2, the distribution stage. What you work hard for when you were younger. So pay attention to that. And as you go down in age, maybe 70, 80, well, you have to die one day. Long-term care cost, hip replacement cost, your knee not good, your eyesight going, you have to do operation, you get broke. 500,000 bankruptcies take place in this country every year. 62% of them are related to healthcare. You get a big bill, you do an operation, maybe a little cancer, you remove the breasts, maybe ovarian cancer, prostate. For men, prostate issues, you get broke. You get broke. So after working 40 years in this country, you retire after 40 years to only collect 40% of what you used to make 40 years ago. But the cost of living doubles every 20 years. You end up broke. If not in a nursing home, you become a burden to your children at home. You end up broke. So the third stage in your life is called the legacy stage. When you die, you leave your children with GoFundMe. You have nothing to pass on. You are broke.
Right.
You pass on poverty. So, looking at it, we have to plan. We have to do things differently. We have to look at inflation, the rise in the cost of goods and services. We have to look at taxation. I mean, everything is going up, as you know, right now. And many different taxes, from federal income tax, state income tax, and all of that. I don't want to spend time on it right now. But the key to understanding the mistakes we make in the Black community, this here, the rule of 72, would explain that to you. Just imagine you are getting 4% from some institution you invest in. 4% interest. The rule of 72 calculates how long it takes for your money to double. You want your money to grow. The cost of living keep going up. They keep taxing you. So your money got to grow too. It's not growing in the bank. You can't. They won't pay you anything. You get less than 1%. You get less than 0.5%. But they're making money on your money.
Right.
And when they own your credit card, they charge you 18, 20, 24, 20, how much percent in the 20s on your credit card. But when you deposit your money, you get less than 0.5 point. Why run to the bank? You are participating in your own demise. So anyhow, use the rule of 72, invented by Albert Einstein. What you do is you take 72 and whatever interest rate they're giving you, let's say they're giving you 4% interest, you divide it. So that means 4 into 72 equals 18. Every 18 years, your money would double. So if your grandmother gave you 10 grand, you are age 29, 18 years, you become 47, your money double to 20. Another 18 years, you hit 65, well, you want to retire now, you have 40,000, right? If you were getting 8%, you divide 18 to 72, that's 9. Your money doubles every 9 years. So you see when you get more interest, watch, at 65, you have 160,000. As opposed to that guy at 65, he has 40,000, right? Now let's go to the end. The gentleman over there at the end is getting 12% interest, which the bank don't give you, period. You divide 12 into 72, that's 6. Every 6 years, your money doubles. Guess what? At 65, you are walking away with what? 640,000. No tax. Everybody is 65. Everybody started out with 10 grand. Everybody started out at the same age, 29.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why is it would you allow yourself to walk away with the bank give you less than 0.5 point? You ain't getting nothing. But somebody getting 12% is walking away with 640,000. Ladies and gentlemen, this is mind-blowing. The mistakes we make, the reason why we cannot accumulate cash, we remain where we are because we keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I believe they call that madness, I think, the last time I heard, right? So let me go into a little detail here.
Yes. But let me just remind everyone, Mr. Charles, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Denis Charles, financial expert. And there is his number closing us across the screen at the top there at 404-839-8468. So if you have questions, I know he's going pretty quickly because, we have only until 9. But if you want to talk to him, there's his number, 404-839-8468. Continue, sir.
Yeah, I'll make it very, very quick. And I have a lot more, but I know in the short space of time we have, we can't do it. So if I go fast and they don't understand, they could always get back to me, okay? Or they could reach you and you could reach me. In any event, I am going to introduce the king of the hill. There is nothing since sliced bread better than that. It is called an index universal life. Stop taking your money and put into term insurance. Term insurance would never build cash value. You would not buy a house if it would not build equity. You want to sell it for way more than you pay. Okay? All right. So a cash value building policy is much more than you get in a bank. I'll show it to you. That's the best thing since sliced bread. So let me go fast. We normally call it an IUL because the name is kind of big, kind of long. IUL, right? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Now, this is, oh my God, let me go back. This is pegged or tied to the S&P 500, the Standard & Poor's 500. So it's not invested directly in the market. You cannot lose when the stock market go down. You have a protection, risk protection. Look at it here, risk protection. Your money cannot go down below zero. So if you start with 100,000 here, let's say this is 2000, and then this is 2001, 2002, 2003, right? You start with 100,000. Well, let's say two friends. One decide to go in the stock market in the red line. The year is 2000, bam. The market went down 16 points. He now has $83,000. The next year it went down again in the stock market. He in the red, right? 67,000. Now he mad, he want to beat up his broker. But look at it. In 2007, we had a big crash. It is called a market correction. The market dipped negative 40%. So now your $100,000 becomes $64,000. It did bounce back a little bit. By the end of the the decade, you get around 92,000. You started with 100 in the stock market, you end up with 92. Okay, but this person here in the blue, they're kind of smart. They say, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna index my money. So when I index my money, I can't lose. They started with the same 100,000 like you. So when the market went down here, they didn't go anywhere. They stay flat. The market went down again, 2002. No, they stay flat. They didn't lose a cent, right? You now down at 67,000. They still remain at 100,000. You get me?
Right.
And every time the market ticks up, they get credited up to a cap of 15%. So when they say a cap, in any 1 year, you're not going to get more or beyond 15%. Right. Okay? So they limit you in any 1 year. The next year you could get another 15 and so on. So even in 2007, 2008, you can see the market nosedive, negative 40.83%. Guess what? You started with 158,000, you end 158,000. So while that person lost a whole ton of money, you ain't lose a cent. It is called an index universal life. You cannot lose. Now, I'm going to give you some homework. You tell me how much they ended up with at the end of the decade. They ended up with 200 and something thousand because they invested in an index universal life. While that person went straight into the stock market, they lost. You cannot lose money in an index universal life. And it's better than, let me just go quickly because I'm out of time. So bear with me quick. It is called an umbrella. It covers you from rain, it covers you from snow, from hot sun, from whatever, sleet, whatever, the best things in sliced bread. You get full protection. Take $1 million life insurance on you. You got peace of mind. You have lifetime death benefit. You have no tax, ladies and gentlemen. You could add long-term care. We have what, COVID-19 and maybe COVID-20 and 21, long-term care. You get 2%. Let's say you have $1 million insurance you take out. Cash value build-up insurance. You see how much profit you made? Okay. You get, if something happened to you and they say you're disabled, you cannot wash yourself, you cannot move, you cannot, whatever happens to you. You get 2% of the $1 million insurance you have, which is $20,000 a month. A month. You go on disability, $20,000 a month. No tax. You could pay a nurse. an RN or somebody to take care of you in the comfort of your home, pay your mortgage, pay all your bills, pay your car note, pay your car insurance, whatever, you're good. Because what? You invested in an IUL, Index Universal Life, and you have long-term assistance in case you have health, situations. So look at it. You have tax advantage, just like a Roth IRA. It participates in the stock market, but not directly. It is pegged. It is indexed. It is an indexed account. You have a zero flow. The market cannot go down on you, period. All right? Wall Street could go down negative 500. You don't care. You ain't going nowhere. You have nothing to lose. And you can get a cap of 10 to 15%. But we have companies now that offer you up to 20% gain in any 1 year. That's a lot of interest. That is more interest than you get in a bank. And guess what? You pay no tax. You could borrow the cash value, pay for your daughter to get married, buy a gas station, buy a car dealership, invest in a building on Eastern Parkway. Whatever you want to do, it's yours. You didn't have to pay it back. Your cash value, the money belongs to you. And if you were to die, let's say you have $1 million insurance, you get the $1 million insurance plus the cash value that you build up, which could be another million again or more. And that is, the two of them given to you, no tax, or your children, your beneficiaries, no tax. So even in retirement, you could keep pulling out money from it, take a trip to Jamaica, buy a private jet. I don't care what you want to do. Buy a nice yacht. You have quality of life. You have peace of mind. Thank you very much. I think my time is up.
Listen,
I had to rush.
Man.
I mean,
this is great information and very timely. I truly appreciate you coming on board to share that with the audience. And, we don't want to bore them. We don't want to put them to sleep. We don't want to make any confusions with the financial terms. The terminologies can be very loaded sometimes. Yeah. But I tell you what, they would not complain about this kind of education. And the number, again, ladies and gentlemen, is there at the top of the screen. Call 404-839-8468. He'll be back. We're going to have part 2. Let me just see if I can catch some responses from the audience. Cheryl Kalisteg says, welcome, Dennis. She's also said financial literacy. All right. And let's see what else. Yes, we need a plan, says Cheryl. Michelle Hall is saying, wow. I guess Michelle cannot believe the extent to which, we could be doing better as a people. So she says, wow, yes, man. And Cheryl's just cheering you on. 25 to 45, you build. And then stage 2, distribution, stage 5. And someone is saying to get into cryptocurrency. So you need to tell us more about that next time. It's a great way to reserve your finances. So you should tell us about that next time. All right. And someone was saying, if you have no children, you are in even bigger trouble in terms of somebody to leave, to bring the problems to. So if you have no kids, you're going to be a problem on the system and strangers. And Sandra said some old age children don't want to take care of their parents. So work. Nursing home. Some can't afford nursing home. So it's true. It's serious stuff. And the audience seemed quite engaged. So thank you. Sandra Price says, thank you for that information, Mr. Denis Charles.
And thank you very much, my buddy. We would meet again and I'll delve into the crypto a little bit because you have to be cautionary here, A lot of people talk about it. It sounds fancy and nice, but they better know what they're doing. One last point I want to make is that I'm an elite trainer. I do public speaking. All over the place, radio stations, in churches and all of that. I teach that. But also I want you to know the average cost right now for a nursing home, a good private room, is $103,000. So if you don't have a plan in place and you retire, trust me, You either pass on a legacy of prosperity to your children, or you pass on poverty. The choice is yours. Okay?
Thank you.
Have a pleasant evening.
Very eloquently said. Thank you, Denis Charles. Have a great rest of the evening yourself, my brother. Appreciate the info.
All right.
Okay. All right. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this side of the Wayne Hall Show. All right. And it's truly a pleasure to have everyone, listeners all over the world, Island Worldwide, Reggae Vibes Radio, Yard Flow TV, ClarkeTV Network, HypeFM, Viscosity Blend, Youchoose Radio. And don't forget to catch me on Fresh FM Radio London tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. All right. At 5:30 p.m. Atlanta time, 10:30 p.m. UK time. All right. So as Mr. Charles makes his way out, we will be glad to have Dr. Professor Harcourt Fuller joining us next right here on the Wayne Hall Show after this short break. Okay? All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you keep it locked on the Wayne Hall Show. Thanks again for listening. All right.
RBG Alliance and Codex Music present Wake Up Music Video Premiere and Live Concert featuring Antonoa and Brap Music by Line of Judah Sound with father and daughter combination, Ras Irate and Empress Movements. Saturday the 5th of March 2022 at 8 p.m. at the BPU Global Center, 5595 Riverdale Road, College Park, Georgia. It's a family affair. Present COVID protocols will be observed. For more information, visit www.ijahknowahanbrap.com. That's ijahknowahandbrap.com.
All right.
I'm Dead, Now What? I'm Dead, Now What is a must-read that chronicles the experience of laying a loved one to rest in Jamaica. I'm Dead, Now What is a true life experience of the ups and downs of coordinating a funeral. It tells of the drama, the stress, money worries, and all the unexpected that rises when a person dies. I'm Dead, Now What is a great combination of storytelling and advice. It is humorous, witty, and helpful. Get your copy of I'm Dead, Now What today at Amazon.com, CreateSpace.com, and www.IamDeadNowWhat.com. Join the author, Wayne Hall, as he navigates the inevitable aspect of life. I'm Dead, Now What is also available on Kindle and in French.
Reggae Global and Culture 2022 on Fresh FM Radio London are celebrating Reggae Month Jamaica during February, featuring the legends and pioneers, women in reggae, UK lovers rock, jazz reggae, and homeward bound creativity show. Reggae Global and Culture 2022 on Fresh FM Radio London. Reggae every day, everywhere. For more information, go to www.Fresh FM Radio London and download our app. Fresh FM Radio London, inspired music and culture.
If I were your baby, oh, I would give you so much more. I'm Ritana and you're locked into the Wayne Hall Show. Keep it locked. Yes to the vibes, eh?
right, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of Coromanti instrumental music there, courtesy of the Granny Nanny Cultural Group. What a better way. Somebody said, I heard an abeng. I'll confirm that, Carl Whittingham, with our guest this evening, ladies and gentlemen, who I am proud to introduce to you, Professor Dr. Harcourt Fuller. And just a little bit about Dr. Fuller here. Dr. Harcourt Fuller is a Fulbright Global Scholar, Whiting Public Humanities Fellow, and Associate Professor of History in the Department of History at Georgia State University. He holds a PhD in International History and an MSc with merit in History of International Relations from the London School of Economics, LSE, in addition to a Bachelor's of Arts in International Studies and a Master of Arts in History from the City University of New York. He has previously taught at Connecticut College, Emmanuel College, Florida International University, and was a visiting researcher at the African Studies Center and a visiting scholar in the African American Studies program at Boston University. As an internationally recognized scholar, Dr. Fuller has conducted research, given invited lectures, and presented conference papers in Africa, Europe, North and South America, and the Caribbean. Dr. Fuller's multidisciplinary research and teaching expertise include the socio-political, cultural, and economic history of West Africa, Ghana in particular, and the African diaspora in the Americas, particularly Jamaica, Peru, and Ecuador. His scholarship focuses on the history of resistance against slavery and colonialism, particularly through marronage, as well as anti-colonial nationalism, transitionalism, symbolic nationalism, and the construction of national and ethno-national identity in the African world. Okay, Dr. Fuller is a member of the Windward Jamaica Maroon community, and he resides right here in our community in the ATL. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Fuller. Dr. Fuller, good evening and welcome to the Wayne Hall Show.
Good evening, Wayne. Blessings to you, respect, and greetings to all of your listeners all over the world.
Thank you so much for making the time to be here with us this evening. It is truly, truly appreciated, Dr. Fuller. And as we get into this discussion this evening, I want to set the tone by saying I reached out more about a desire to learn than even to stoke any kind of controversy or anything, to do with the topic as it is right now. I want to learn, and I would like my audience to learn. And I felt you'd be a great resource. I have seen the clips of you on other platforms helping to teach and educate and help us connect the dots with our heritage there in Jamaica. So I'm really grateful that you could do that for us tonight. What I would like to start by asking, and feel free to steer this from your rich, knowledgeable, and just the advantage of being on this subject so often, you feel free to even steer this in terms of how best we can deliver on it. As I said, it's a matter of learning tonight. But, we're hearing a lot in the news lately about the maroon situation in Jamaica, and a lot of us are trying to understand it. We go to source A and we hear, oh, there was a treaty some years ago. Then we go to source B and, oh, that treaty doesn't exist anymore. It's not valid. And so, thank you, man. How can we process all this? On what historical basis can we begin to process what's happening now with our maroons in Jamaica?
Well, thanks for the question. And first of all, as a matter of how we usually begin, I want to draw your attention, to the abeng, because I think you said someone said they heard.
Yes, yes.
I cannot see myself on the screen, but can you see?
Oh, yes. The audience is seeing the abeng right now.
All right. So first of all, let me say that the abeng is a side-blown cow's horn. In Jamaica, it's a cow's horn. I'll talk about West Africa in a second. And this is a signaling horn that our ancestors used hundreds of years ago and today. But
yes,
when we're talking about the historical period from the 16th, 17th, and 18th and 19th century, right?
Yes.
Basically, they use this during that period as a war horn to, for example, when let's say when the British Redcoats were fighting the Maroons up in the mountains, the Maroons would blow this to let other Maroons know when to attack, when to retreat, where the troop movements are, etc. Also, it's a musical instrument. And so the track that you played, which is an instrumental, it starts with the Maroons. I'm sorry, it starts with the abeng, right? Yeah. And so we always start anything with the blowing of the abeng.
Okay.
As a sign of welcoming the ancestors into this space.
Yes.
And I want to say a big up, if I may, to the Moortown Granny Nanny Cultural Group. The track that you just played is from their album Granny Nanny Como, which I executive produced. And as you know, Wayne, because you introduced them in 2016 when they appeared, they were in Atlanta and they performed on a number of stages, for example, at the Grace Atlanta Jerk Festival.
Yes, I recall.
The final thing I want to say about the abeng, in the spirit of what you said, that we are here to learn, and I'm here to try my best to facilitate that, is that the abeng, the word abeng, a variation of it comes from the Akan Cree language that is spoken by Akan people such as the Ashanti that are found mainly in Ghana, but also in Cote d'Ivoire or the Ivory Coast. All right, and it's the same word that they use. And essentially it's an animal horn, which is used as a signaling horn and as a musical instrument that made its way to Jamaica and to other places where you have Maroon peoples. So that's the first lesson of the night.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Are you going to blow it?
The abeng is usually blown by specialists, right?
Okay.
So there is, and it's an excellent question. And as I talk, you're going to hear things that really help explain what the Maroons are, or who the Maroons are, essentially. So the Maroons, we have a connection to our ancestors, right? And for people who really, sometimes when people hear the word ancestors, it might mean something different. So let me tell you who, when I say ancestors, the people who were physically here, I know they have gone to the other world, if I may, right?
Yes.
So whether that's your grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great, or others. So that word shouldn't be spooky to people, because I know sometimes people say, duppy are certain things. No, these are the people who, without whom you and I wouldn't be here. So we use the abeng to bring them into this space. So that's essentially what that is.
Well, you know what? I am so happy I played that first. Wow. What a divine coincidence.
Absolutely.
I played that first just because it's a great, I like the medley. And I figured this is a nice intro, not realizing the abeng that's blown at the start of the song would symbolically be a great way to have started this conversation.
Yes, and
so
only
we're on the right track.
People blow the abeng.
Yes.
Because the abeng, when you blow it, you send a specific message. Nowadays, for example, if someone in the mountains is lost, or someone drowns, or if there's a natural disaster like an earthquake, you have the specialists who can blow, and they send a signal that people will understand within the community. So it's still used for those types of emergency reasons.
Awesome. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. So now, I had asked, and if you so think it's it makes sense for us to start there. Just help us understand the Maroons, their history, and the current situation in Jamaica.
So the word Maroon, let's start with that. And this is why doing research and constantly doing research really makes sense, because what you know now may change later with new information. So let's start with the word. It's generally accepted within the academic community that the word maroon comes from the Spanish word cimarron.
Oh.
Okay, cimarron. Okay, cimarron, cimarron. And cimarron is a term that was used initially in Hispaniola, where you have the Dominican Republic and Haiti on that island. And then it was used in other contexts like in Jamaica. And it's generally meant, it was used by the Spaniards to refer to wild cattle or wild pigs that had run away up into the mountains. And so usually the term was seen as meaning wild and untamed. However, more recent research actually ties the word not to the Spanish language, but to an Arawak word, right? The Arawak language spoken by the Taino people. And it's essentially means an arrow in flight. So, you know, when an arrow is in flight and it's kind of gone out of sight, it's gone to, you know, a far place.
Yes.
So maroons are people who, to use a Jamaican terminology, take with themselves from the plantations on the coastal areas generally, and they find the furthest place away from slavery that they can find, that they could have found.
Okay.
And usually the first maroons were actually not Africans, but the indigenous people of whichever land we're talking about. And so maroons are not just found in Jamaica. Maroons are found essentially everywhere that you had slavery, you had bands of people who ran away. Now, because they were usually hunted down, captured, and killed, is not all the communities that started in the 16th century that have survived today. And so you have maroons, for example, in Brazil, and their communities are called quilombos. You have maroons in the Spanish-speaking countries like Ecuador, Peru, Colombia, Cuba, and those communities are called palenques, okay? And then you have maroons in places like Haiti and the French-speaking colonies who are referred to as Negmahon, all right? You have maroons in places like Suriname, French Guyana, British Guyana, using those terms, and Barbados, Grenada, and of course, Jamaica. So that's the first thing I want people to understand. And when we talk about maroons, the first maroons were usually the first indigenous people who ran away. And then as more and more African slaves were brought into these spaces, and forgive me, I forgot to mention the United States had maroons. For example, in the Great Dismal Swamp, which is an area between North Carolina and Virginia, that swamp had maroons for over 220 years. In Florida, and I know many of your listeners are going to be in Florida, the people known as Seminoles, okay? And if you listen to the word Seminole, it sounds like cimarron, Seminoles, maroon. Yes. And you have indigenous Seminoles and black Seminoles. So even in the United States, you have people who are maroons that, you know, for hundreds of years, right? So maroons are all over. We have different names and different terminologies in different places. And usually the communities emerge out of the indigenous people who ran away and went into the mountains, and then the African peoples joined them later. Specifically in the case of Jamaica, that's what happened. The Taino people who were colonized by the Spanish, who occupied Jamaica roughly from around 1509 to 1655, they were the first people to run away or to escape from the plantations and head up to the cockpit country, which is, you know, what we're talking about in the western part of Jamaica, as well as the Blue and John Crow Mountains in the eastern parishes of, you know, St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary, etc., right? And also in Clarendon, in other St. Catherine, other places. And so that is the genesis of the Maroon community in Jamaica. The Taino people who were later joined by waves of Africans who formed a union in the mountains and became what most people know as Maroons, although we have other names that we call ourselves as well.
Okay. And a very key word you're using there is indigenous. And Taino, if I'm correct, were those like the Indians, Amerindians? Are those the same?
Those terms, we use indigenous, but yes, they are the first peoples, right? The First Nation people, as they in Canada they refer to as their indigenous people as First Nation nations, right? So these are the first inhabitants of Jamaica. Yes.
Okay, great. And so I'm hearing here that these indigenous folks, first inhabitants, as you said, took themselves from the mainland, so down, up to the mountains in different areas around the country.
Yes.
And then as African slaves, Africans who were brought as slaves found ways away from the slavery, away from the locations. They made it to these maroons in the hills or locations where they were. And there was a blending of people, huh? There's a coming together.
Yes, and how do we know that? There's a number of things. So let's start with, among Maroon people. And, even within our families, sometimes there are descriptions of Uncle so-and-so have straight black hair. Our uncles are so-and-so. There are phenotypical physical features that even within our community, we have always described this merger of the indigenous, the Taino and the Maroons, right? Just without any research.
Yes.
Right. And then also there are other things as well that we talk about. But from a scholarly standpoint,
yes,
there have been archaeological and specifically done by historical archaeologists who have gone up to places like Old Nanny Town, which is where Queen Nanny, had her stronghold, and the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, which is a government body in Jamaica that does research on the archaeology and history of Jamaica. They have found material remains of the Taino people in the mountains, and the evidence shows that they had a union, if you will, with the Africans who came as well. And then also, as I have done genetic research, meaning that I've used DNA, working with a colleague of mine, Dr. Jada Ben Torres from Vanderbilt University, who is a molecular anthropologist, and we have done DNA research in a compound and Moortown, and we have found evidence that suggests this connection between the Tainos and the Africans.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Harcourt Fuller, professor of history at Georgia State. And I need to add a little bit of information that I did not share when he came on originally. He's a historical consultant and on-screen commentator for this Smithsonian Channel series, which is airing every Monday during Black History Month. So you can find more of this great information there with Dr. Fuller. Dr. Fuller, I want to not just talk. I want to play a little bit of this music you've shared with me. I would like to play the Granny Come On, the Granny Nanny called from the Granny Nanny Come Home song.
Yes, absolutely.
And then we're going to get back to talking, because I want to hear more when we come back about how that coming together and how history and the battles fought has shaped the history of the Maroons in Jamaica. So let's play from the Granny Nanny Cultural Group, ladies and gentlemen. Granny Nanny, come home. Come home.
Granny Nanny nani como. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani como. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Come back to the rubber, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani como. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come round a boy, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani como. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come back to the rubber, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come back to the rubber, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come round a boy, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come back to the rubber, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come back to the rubber, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come back to the rubber, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come round a boy, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come back to the rubber, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. Granny nani come. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You come back to the rubber, eh. Yeah, yeah, yani me. You bring girl, you bring boy.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, we're talking with Dr. Harcourt Fuller, Professor of History at the Georgia State University. We're talking a little bit about our own history in Jamaica, though, the Maroons, and in the current climate of what's going on there, so we can have a better perspective of what's going on. I want to say good evening to Mr. Garfield McCook, the founder and the president of the JIIFSC, and we have their latest information later on the show before we get out of here tonight. Maxine Lyons, you say you're very proud of Dr. Fuller. You know him as Prof. Awesome.
Big up Maxine.
Nadine Ellis says, yes, informative indeed. Maxine says it's very informative. And someone actually says, Wayne Hall, this is the beauty of your platform, always educational. Well, thank you. And Lorna Beck in Charleston, South Carolina, says hello. And Mr. Whittingham, you were right. It was an abeng that you heard, sir. Dr. Fuller.
Yes.
Help us now that we've understand the origins of the Maroons, how they got to be where they are, who they were made up of. Help us understand now as we went through the wars and to the point where the state at the time had to pay special attention to the Maroons as a people.
Okay. All right. And if you will permit me, I have to say a couple of other quick things. The track you just played is from this album. It's a double CD MP3 album. And the way how Maroons, or how we record our history, is through the drums, the abeng, oral history, and our songs. And that is very important for what I'm going to say next. Because who records history and how it is recorded is one of the reasons why we have some of the misunderstandings that we have right now. All right, so I just, if I may, I want to big up the Granny Nanny Cultural Group again. Major Charles Aaron, the leader, the elder, Hope, Juki, Baga, Aaron, all of these people. This type of music needs to be encouraged because, quite frankly, it is I would say it is an endangered art in Jamaica, right? Because as the elders join the ancestors, and quite frankly, many young people leave the Maroon communities or the country of Jamaica, it's difficult to find people who understand the culture or language or music, etc. And so if I may, I would encourage all of you to support this project because this helps in the preservation of the Maroon way of life, which is also the Jamaican way of life, which we will address as well. This is available on all digital platforms. The album is called Granny Nanny Como by the Granny Nanny Cultural Group. All right, so please. All right, so let's talk about warfare, because this is very important. The Maroon people have been fighting for their existence and their survival from the Spanish period, right? So I had mentioned before that the Spanish occupied Jamaica roughly from around 1509 to 1655,
Yes.
which is over, if you do the maths, 100 and what, almost 150 years. 150 years. And so there were different bands of Maroons fighting the Maroons, but fighting the Spanish. But the Spanish never really had a stronghold on Jamaica because it wasn't one of their major colonies, and they didn't have a lot of Spaniards there. But when the British invaded the island and essentially took it over from 1655, they had a couple of years warfare with the Spanish. And in the middle of this warfare, more and more enslaved Africans ran away to the mountains and joined the bands of Maroons. So over the decades, more and more Maroons, more and more enslaved Africans ran away and joined with the Maroons, and they kept fighting. And the Maroons, because they knew as they say, the hills and valleys and the rivers and all of these things, they actually had the advantage because many of them came to Jamaica with military skills from West Africa. And so when the British went up into the mountains, and they have on them bright red coats, and they're used to marching in a certain way and fighting in a traditional way, the Maroons would ambush them, because Maroons also had weapons. They had guns that they had captured from the British, and also they had traded for. And so they would, fire at the British, move and frustrate them and beat them in essentially every battle.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
And so the British, from 1655 to 1738, which is over 80 years, over 8 decades, the Maroons were fighting the British. No, the British did everything to try to conquer the Maroons. One, the first thing they did, which was a divide and rule strategy, which is very important. They offered their enslaved people everything from money to clothing to more opportunities. Okay, I will let you go see your wife on the next plantation, or I will not beat your child that much if you come help us hunt down the Maroons, or if you go spy on the Maroons, okay? Or I will give you your freedom if you help us to track down and spy on the Maroons. And so the British formed a regiment which is called the Black Shots. And the Black Shots were made up of enslaved Africans and free people of color. Now, what people need to understand is that there were Black people during slavery who actually had their freedom for a variety of reasons. Many of them were usually mixed race people, mulattoes as they were called, right? And so these free Black people, as well as enslaved people, were formed into these Black Shots, and they would go after the Maroons. Mm-hmm. The British also brought canine dogs from places, for canine dogs into the country to hunt the Maroons.
Right.
And then the British brought a set of people known as the Mosquito Indians. That's the historical terms, from Central America, places like Honduras and them places, brought them into the country to go and fight against the Maroons. They even brought Native Americans from the United States to fight against the Maroons. So again, they used different people to go after the Maroons, but they could not defeat the Maroons because you had skilled leaders like Kojo and Akompong and Queen Nani and Kwao, etc. And they couldn't beat them. And so finally the British, because they wanted to continue their enslavement and their sugar plantations, etc., they were forced to approach the Maroons to sign a peace treaty. In normal Jamaican parlance, we would say that as my good friend Professor Vereen Shepherd always says, that the British them cry Cree. So them cry Cree.
The British cry Cree.
Them cry Cree, and them come and they ask for peace. Now here's the other context. The Maroons, and you know, sometimes this is something that's contentious, right? And I'm getting to the treaty.
Yes.
All right. The Maroons were illiterate in the European language, in English. How do we know that? Anytime someone signs their name in an X, it means they cannot read that language. And so the treaties were drafted by the British in the English language with all of the legal terms and all of that kind of stuff. And it was written from a British perspective.
Yes.
All right. And so the Maroons some Maroons, let me clarify that, did sign on to that, because there was a fierce debate within the Maroon community among the leadership as to whether or not to sign a treaty with the British. Think about your people have been at war for almost 9 decades, 80 odd years. The Maroons, even though they were winning battles, they still had to run up and down the mountains. Their villages were burnt and destroyed. And whenever they got caught by the redcoats, the militia and the black shots, they would be killed and tortured. Okay, so people, I would ask people to understand that when you've been fighting for so long and you have a chance for peace, some of the Maroon leaders decided that was the best time. And anyone who studies military history know that you make peace when you have the upper hand. Because it is my contention that had the Maroons continued to fight, the British would have been able to get more reinforcements from other slave colonies, from Britain itself, and from some of Britain's allies in Europe, etc. And so the Maroons decided to have this treaty. Now, Queen Nanny of the Maroons, who came from the eastern part of Jamaica, from Portland, right?
Yes.
Well, of course, she was from Ghana, but that's where she was based, up in Portland, in the Blue Mountains. She advised against signing the treaty because she, quite frankly, hated the British for what they were doing to her people and to other people, and she wanted to continue the fight. But there was a split, and some decided to sign the treaty, and in a sense, Nanny was overruled, and so we have two treaties. One signed by the Leeward Maroons under Cudjoe, and one signed by the Windward Maroons under Quao. But I want to emphasize again that it was a difficult decision whether to make peace or to continue war, because there would be consequences either way.
Wow. So there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it sounded like it became a battle of attrition, that it really should, it made sense for the Maroons not to have their stamina and warlike, resources exposed, eventually by the British, who had the money and the manpower to just keep coming at them. So you're saying these documents, the peace treaty were in fact kind of signed under a little bit of duress, or would that be too strong a word?
No, I think that leaders made a decision that it was in their best interest to have peace.
Okay.
Now the treaty, let's get the contentious things out the way. The treaty, one of the things it says is that Maroons were compelled to return enslaved people, and to put down any further rebellions in the country. And also, if Britain was attacked, let's say by Spain or any other foreign power, the Maroons would help them to put that down. Okay. And that is something that has caused a lot of contention. It's one of the most contentious issues today, because people say, well, the Maroon, them sell out them fellow black brother and sister, right? And that is something that is understandable, that if you sign a treaty that you have to return other enslaved people, it's understandable that people would see that as problematic, and I think it is. However, let me provide the other context. You know, I think one of the things sometimes people talk about Black people as if we are a monolithic group. We are just one thing. And remember that even in Africa, you had different ethnic groups. Some people use the word tribes, right?
Yes.
You have the Yoruba, you have the Fulani, you have the Ekwe, you have the Ga, you have the Fanti, you have all these different people. And just like any other people in the world, Europeans, Asians, they also had their warfare because they're human beings. And so in Jamaica, the Maroons, by the time you get to the signing of the treaties in 1738 into 1739, the Maroons had become a nation within ourselves. We had our own territories. We were the ones who retained more of the African languages, which is essentially Akan Tree, spoken by the Ashanti, for example, and other Akan peoples. We had our own chiefs. We were different in a sense. And I know that might be difficult for people to swallow because, again, I hear the conversations, but that is essentially the Maroons saw themselves as different. And we also have to remember that because the British were playing their divide and rule game, they would, for example, allow
still being played today,
enslaved people to escape and come into Maroon communities pretending that they're seeking refuge. And then they would go back and report the Maroon strongholds to the British for them to come and destroy. So by the time you're signing a treaty to protect your community from the British and the British allies, and the British subjects, if you will, which were enslaved people. So the British were the puppet masters. Yeah. They pit enslaved people against Maroons, and then when them sign with Maroons, they pit Maroons against enslaved people. And so that for me is an important context that needs to be understood. And I also finally want to say that even after the treaties, and yes, the Maroons did help to put down rebellions, but even in the British documents themselves, in London, at the British National Archives and in Jamaica, you see the British complaining that the Maroons were still accepting enslaved people and not turning them over. So both things are true at the same time.
Yes. Now, this treaty that we're talking about in 1738, between the British and the Maroons, it sounds like the Maroons were able, because they withdrew themselves from the direct impact of the British, were able to go back to their basic way of life that they came from Africa with, and also to team up with the locals that were there before them and live a very original form of life. And so were able to create their own, districts and township. Now, what the implication of this treaty is being referred to today by many as the basis on which moves being made by the political climate in Jamaica should not take place. And I know you're not here to be a politician. You're here to help us understand. The wording of the treaty, and I've also read a letter, I think at the time it was the British representative, the Crown representative to Jamaica, who wrote on his perspective of how he thought the Maroons should be treated. And that letter is very prominent on the pages of the Maroons, and where you can find information of the Maroons. Is this treaty a defining treaty in terms of how the existence of the Maroons and their townships should be treated today?
Well, let me say, I know there are various opinions about that, and I can only state mine. Right. Other people will tell you something different. I actually do not start with the treaty. Okay. Because the treaty did not grant the Maroons freedom. What the treaty did, if you study international relations, for example, let's say you have a country, right? You have a country and that country is gaining independence or something like that. Usually another foreign power has to acknowledge that we recognize that this country is
Yes.
I don't want is sovereign or independent or autonomous or whatever you want to use. So the Maroons, as I was saying before, really from the 16th century throughout the 17th and 18th century, were already free and had our own territories again, because the group, the Maroons, were formed again by the indigenous Tainos and then Africans who made up the majority of the numbers. So we already had our free territories up in the mountains. What the treaty did was to acknowledge that, all right, we acknowledge that you exist, right? And we are going to, quote unquote, give you these lands. And by the way, and I really have to say this, even though we talk about the treaty actually, although it provided for peace, you know, there are still skirmishes, but the Maroons lost a lot with the treaty because even the land, the lands out west that Kodjo and his people got were reduced to 1,500 acres.
Yes, I saw that.
And out in Portland, 500 acres, right? And so what I'm saying is that the Maroon people had a lot more land than that, but the British said 1,500 acres. And then, of course, if the Maroons wanted to sell their whatever they hunted, like if they hunted wild hog or something, they had to get a permit from a magistrate or a British official to sell in the markets in the towns. So what I'm saying is that the treaty also put a lot of restrictions and a lot of controls on the Maroons while it still recognized their independence. The two things can be true at the same time, and that is what that is. So the Maroons were already free. The treaty acknowledged that freedom, and over the ensuing decades, the British, on several occasions, tried to unilaterally repeal the treaty and to say that we don't need the Maroons anymore, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. We're just going to treat them like other Jamaicans. But the Maroons never saw it that way. Because if you and I enter into an agreement, you might decide that you want to back out, but I didn't agree to that. And so as far as the Maroons are concerned, that treaty is still valid today. Now, of course, some of the clauses are not relevant anymore because times have changed, but the treaty is still valid today. And so even though the Jamaican Constitution and the independence of the island of Jamaica in 1962 didn't specifically address the status of the Maroons still maintain that everything still remains intact with respect to we are a people, we have a unique identity, we speak a unique language, we have our territories. The Maroons are the only group of Jamaicans that I know of that elect a traditional leader. We have our colonels, which are chiefs. No other Jamaican group, as far as I know, elect their own traditional leader. And I'm not talking about political leaders or any other type of leader.
Not state.
And so the other thing I want to say is that international law treats the Maroons as either and or indigenous and or tribal peoples. And Jamaica signed on to, for example, the United Nations, human rights, acts and all that stuff, the Inter-American, all of these human rights, these international bodies that Jamaica has signed on to, that they will respect the right of indigenous or tribal peoples. They've signed on to it. Jamaica applied for and received the status of a UNESCO World Heritage Site for the Blue and John Crow Mountains National Park. And in that application, and I have the application, it is over 2,000 pages. The two reasons why Jamaica got the World Heritage Site status for the Blue and John Crow Mountains National Park is because of the Maroons, specifically Queen Nanny, and because of the nature up there. And it's the Maroons who preserve the nature for hundreds of years. So Jamaica has already acknowledged that the Maroons have a particular place within the context of Jamaican history. And I think that the discussion now, it kind of got into a war of words and stuff like that. But ultimately, what we're saying is that in the same way that the United States of America has Native American people, and yes, the United States of America is a sovereign independent country, but sovereign independent countries like the United States, or Canada with its First Nation peoples, or Ghana with the Ashanti Kingdom, or New Zealand with the Maori, or Australia with the Aborigines, or whatever, sovereign independent countries still are bound by national and international laws to respect individual and group rights, whether those group rights are religious rights or the rights of First Nation, indigenous, tribal peoples. They are bound by that. So this rhetoric in the media about it's either Jamaica is an independent sovereign country or the Maroons are independent sovereign. No, the Maroons are Jamaicans, and I can show you my Jamaican passport. I still have it. Right. We're Jamaicans, but we also have a unique, if I may use that word, and unique doesn't mean more or less. It's just, again, I've already outlined
specific to your group,
to the group. And so I think that where the discussion needs to go in Jamaica, I think probably is a formalization through constitutional reform of the status of Maroon people within Jamaica. The Maroons, we are proud Jamaicans and we're proud Maroons. Final thing I'll say is that I think too often people, the debate is either black and white. You're either or you are. You're either this or that. Identity is layered. So if you're in the United States, for example, and you are African American, you're an American, so that's two layers of identity. And let's say you're from the South, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. You can also identify as a Southern person. And you might be of a religious group, Christian, Muslim. You might say that I'm also Christian or Muslim or whatever. So that's for Native American. So that's 4. In Jamaica, we're all Jamaicans, that's 1. You can be a Maroon, that's 2. And you have Maroons who are Christians, or you have Maroons who are Rastas. We have multiple layers of identity, and there is no conflict among them.
Okay. Wow. Well said, and very eye-opening, Dr. Fuller.
Yes.
I truly appreciate this. The perception now from my angle is that I can literally watch what's unfolding and have a perspective. And like you say, it doesn't mean you're for or against something, and that's why I wanted to learn. If you have a little piece of our island that was preserved and protected by a people that because of their history and the way they had to live and survive were able to do that, it sounds like a national prize, like a national possession, something that you wouldn't want to mess with. And at the same time, we're hearing the economical benefits of mining in these areas and all that. But everything is at a price. And I believe when you look at history, that the information presented, and if you really take the time to understand it, should be a big part of the decision you make. And so this, I'm sure, will help us tonight to understand as we see history unfold. Because you know what? We're still in an atmosphere of division and rule. And also, we're still in an atmosphere where it's almost like history repeats itself. When you're a people that had to fight from day one, you never stop fighting, it seems. And you look at black people in America, you look at minority here. We're still trying to pass voting rights laws. You think that was the 60s, but Americans, Black Americans, are still waiting and hoping that we can still today pass voting right laws, because there's stuff happening that's continuing the fight that led to the first passing of voting rights. And so it feels like that fight is never over. And I look at the Maroons in that context, and with the information I got tonight, it sounds like history repeating itself in a different form in terms of what is being desired in that part of the world. So I really thank you. And if there's anything else you'd like to share, we have about 3 minutes, Dr. Fuller. And again, man, I cannot thank you enough for what you've shared. Invaluable. And the comments speak for themselves. I am so informed after this, says Maxine. This is phenomenal information. Wayne Duarica. Hi, Wayne. Thank you for joining. Wayne says, wow, first time on this show. The information is powerful. I was invited to hear the financial program and I elected to stay on. I am glad that I did. So there we have it, Dr. Fuller. Anything in closing?
Yeah, I'll just say I encourage all Jamaicans to, if you have never been to a Maroon community, visit. And that's one of the things. Sometimes you need to meet people and meet them where they are to understand. When you go up to a Kompong or Charlestown in Portland or Scotts Hall in St. Mary or to the Moortown area in the Rio Grande Valley in Portland, the Blue and John Crow Mountains are phenomenal. It's where Queen Nanny, Jamaica's only female national heroine, is buried. Go up there, see how the Maroons have preserved the area. In the Rio Grande Valley, I'm told that there's over 50 waterfalls, pristine rivers, right? The Maroon communities are the lungs of Jamaica.
How can we do this? How can we do this, Dr. Fuller? I mean, what's the channel through which I go to Jamaica? I'm lost. How do I go toward the Maroon villages?
Well, okay, if you fly into Mobile or even if you're in Kingston, I've heard Maroon leaders say you can go and visit a Kompong. The Charlestown Maroons, they are in Buff Bay. Once you go to Buff Bay at the gas station, you turn right and you go up there. In Moortown, you can find your way to Moortown. My family, as a way of preserving our way of life, we have also started an enterprise there to invite people there, and it's called Catterwood Village.
Okay.
And, yes, and as well. So you can visit that. It's KATAWUD village.com. To visit in the Rio Grande Valley in Portland.
Awesome. Wow, what a great night of information. Dr. Fuller, thank you.
Thank you.
I will close with the Maroon there. We no
gone away. I was going to tell you, play that song. You see, I read my mind. Wayne. Maroon there, we not gone away. Big up to all Jamaicans, all people all over the world. Much love. Happy Black History Month. Please check out the Smithsonian show, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called 1,000 Years of Slavery, The Hidden Story, and I'm a historical consultant and a commentator for it. Please check it out. One love to everyone. I'll say one love, peace, and big up.
Thank you. Likewise, right back at you, sir. We appreciate you. And like I said, Janice O'Shea says, thanks for presenting, Professor Fuller. Happy Black History Month, Wayne and audience. Meeting people where they are, to quote tonight's guest. Lorna Beck says, when you interact with Healthy Lifestyle Network, you will visit Queen Nanny in Moortown. Sharon Mitchell Barnwell says, greetings, Dr. Fuller. Wow. Okay. Thank you all so much for listening. It's good to keep an audience with this type of show. I know we love our music. We like to dance and be entertained, but boy, nothing beats knowledge. And so I really appreciate everyone who has stuck through this show tonight. And Dr. Fuller, words can't express my gratitude. Thank you, sir. Have a great evening.
Likewise. Bless up.
Gano saying Gane.
to say good night to my listeners on Island Worldwide, HypeFM, and Youchooseradiocom. That's right, Maroon Day, we not gone nowhere. You know what? I traced my heritage to the Maroons, yeah, by way of my mom. And pretty interesting, pretty interesting. That's a whole other conversation. Want to shout out Mr. Gary McCook from the JIIFSC. Don't forget that this year's year 2 of the JIIFSC, the Jamaican Independence Foreign Song Contest, is now open for your your entries. So please go to their website. That's JIIFSC website, and fill out your application, pay your application fee, and you have from February 1st, which was yesterday, until April 30 to get your entry in. And then you need to have your song, your MP3 in by May 31st. Then the judging will begin and we'll know who is year 2's winner. So keep up with the JIIFSC right here on the Wayne Hall Show. I want to say live and let love. Don't forget, the only way to start at the top is if you're digging a hole, and always be looking around for something great to praise and encourage. Thanks again. Also be grateful. All right? It's a wet night. Stay dry wherever you are. And please come back next week. We're going to have Donna McLeod, a history-making Jamaican, the first ever Caribbean Jamaican woman to be elected in the Georgia House of Representatives, will be my guest next week, when we're going to put no time limit on the conversation, because a history maker in Black History Month by way of a Black woman, please join me to hear the kind of conversation we will have next week. We also have Loring joining us with some fresh music right here before we get to her. Anthony Turner will be back with the eReport. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Until next week, keep in mind, please remember, the Maroons are still here. Them not gone nowhere. Take care and see ya.
No, we not gone.